den.
It's really not fair. One kid can have so much talent.
Simply put, he's a generational talent, described as literally one of the best NBA prospects ever.
He's a unicorn.
People don't talk about him like he's a future all-star. They start the conversation with future MVP.
That's some pretty high praise for an 18-year-old who hadn't even played an NBA game yet. Except these remarks are not about LeBron. All of these comments are about the 2023 draft prospect, Victor Wembanyama, a player who scouts are saying might just be the best NBA prospect of all time. Except there's just one thing scouts are forgetting. Today's video is sponsored by Keeps.
Ich schwöre, ich raste aus, Digga. Einmal ehrlich jetzt.
Keeps has you Clash, JxmyHighroller, Ralph Sampson, Rick Smith,
Einmal raufgegangen, alles reingekackt.
I'm sure a few names come to mind, but only a few. And that's because even in a league full of giants, there just hasn't been many players this tall. In fact, throughout the NBA's 75-year history, there have only been 26 players who were 7 feet 3 inches or taller. Of those 26 players, only 3 of them are currently in the NBA, and only 3 others made the Basketball Hall of Fame. See, despite size and length being one of the most valuable assets in the game of basketball, there is such thing as being too tall for the game. At what point does a player have too much height? Well, if history tells us anything, it's that the threshold is about 7'1". I know, it's a rather specific number, but time and time again, we are shown that anyone above 7'1" is bound to have significant, if not career-ending injuries and health issues due to their incredible size. Out of these 26 players, really only about 7 of them went on to have notable careers.
Oder und wen kenne ich davon? Ralph Sampson kennt man, Mike Eaton, Bruder auch ganz schwierig noch, Yao Ming kennt man, Anidas Bonus, Bruder auch ein guter Spieler, Digga, aber hat leider irgendwie nur 2 Seasons in der NBA gehabt. Und Kristaps Porzingis, den kennt man natürlich, Bruder, aber den Rest kennt man nicht, Bruder. Und alle injury-prone.
Moin
Maxi, was geht, was geht?
You'd actually have a hard time finding more than a few players who were taller than 7'1" who didn't have careers plagued by injuries. There seems to be a specific limit to how big a player can be before their size quickly becomes a debilitating detriment. And I say all of this for one reason. This kid, 7 foot 3 inch, 18-year-old Victor Wembanyama, a player that possesses all the physical tools and skills to be a one-of-a-kind talent, but may just be too tall for his own good. Victor is already being anointed as the best NBA prospect since LeBron James 20 years ago, which sounds like a massive reach until you watch the kid play. See, over the last few decades, we've witnessed some of the all-time greatest NBA prospects get drafted. The kind of talent that has teams scrambling to lose as many games as possible to get. Shaq in 1992, Tim Duncan in 1997, LeBron James in 03, and Anthony Davis in 2012.
Kann man drüber streiten.
With talent of this caliber, there's never really any debate as to who's going number 1 overall. In fact, in some cases, if these prospects were available for the draft sooner, they would have gone first overall before they were even eligible. Ron Artest is on record saying LeBron could have played in the NBA by the time he was just 15.
Ja, Bruder, weiß ich nicht, Bruder. Weiß ich nicht, Digga. Vor allem NBA-Spieler, Digga, weiß ich nicht. Ich habe das Gefühl, dass sie oftmals ihre Aussagen viel schlimmer machen müssen, als sie im Endeffekt sind, Digga, damit sie vielleicht Aufmerksamkeit bekommen, Bruder. Aber dass LeBron mit 15 in der NBA hätte spielen können, schwierig, Digga.
NBA exec Danny Ainge said there are only 4 or 5 players in the NBA that I wouldn't trade to get LeBron right now. This was back in 2002, when LeBron was a 17-year-old high school junior. Of course, not all ultra-elite NBA prospects are ready to make the jump right away. A few years ago, Marvin Bagley was far and away the best recruit in the class of 2018.
Bei Marvin Bagley ist aber auch das Ding, Bruder, er wurde als 6'11 bei dem Draft angemeldet, war am Ende irgendwie nur 6'8 oder 6'9 groß, Digga. Und 2 Inches als Big Man sind halt schon einiges, Digga.
So to expedite his journey to the NBA, he reclassified to the class of 2017 and was still the #1 recruit in the country. But despite his glaring talents and NBA readiness...
Ja, ohne Spaß, er ist einfach als 6'11 angemeldet, Digga. Er ist einfach 6'8 oder so. Das ist ja Hammer.
At such a young age, he has yet to make a real impact at the NBA level. Because no matter how incredible a young prospect is, in the world of sports, there is no such thing as a guarantee. But rarely, maybe once or twice in a decade, a prospect comes along and nearly reaches that unattainable status. The 2023 NBA Draft will feature one of these generational prospects in Victor Wembanyama. Victor has been in the spotlight for quite a while now, and not even 24 hours after the 2022 NBA Draft, attention already began to shift to next year's Draft and the ultimate prize.
Ja, ohne Spaß.
2023 NBA Draft.
Bruder, wir hatten gerade den Draft mit Chet Holmgren drin, Digga. Im Endeffekt, Chet Holmgren sieht genauso aus wie er, Digga, von der Statur her und so, Bruder. Nächste, ja, alles klar, Bruder, das wird der schlimmste Draft-Pick ever. Aber ich bin halt auch mal gespannt, was mit diesem Victor Wembanyama, Bruder, das wird auch so ein Ding, den mal auszusprechen, was mit ihm wird, Digga. Das Ding ist, er hat das schon angesprochen, es gibt wenig Spieler, die mit der Größe konstant spielen können, ohne sich zu verletzen. Und ich bin gespannt, ob er das auch halten kann. Genauso gleich habe ich auch über Chet Holmgren gesagt, Digga.
Informally being labeled as the Wembanyama sweepstakes. By now, most of y'all have probably heard of Victor or seen clips of him playing. The first thing that stands out is his absurd height and length. 7 feet 3 inches tall, with a 7 foot 10 inch wingspan.
Lächerlich.
For some perspective, here's 6 foot 4 inch 2022 NBA draftee Jaden Ivey. Here's 7 foot 1 inch Chet Holmgren. And over here is Victor Wembanyama,
Bruder!
making Chet look like an undersized shooting guard. But many scouts and onlookers have said that Victor isn't 7'3". He's actually closer to 7'5", which just sounds like a bunch of speculation. But you see this guy right here? This is Zach Edey. Zach's official listed height is 7'4", and Victor is a giant. But his incredible stature isn't nearly what makes him a potentially generational talent. It's what he does with it. Quick feet, even quicker hands, agility that is visually startling for a player of his size. Despite being a skyscraper, he can take defenders off the dribble with an explosive first step or use an arsenal of moves to create separation in ISO situations. The kid is 7'3" and can create shots for himself anywhere on the court.
What the fuck?
Durant, his high release on his jump shots makes them virtually unguardable. Although he's not nearly the outside shooter Durant is.
Was hat er da mit seiner Hand
does have an inside game.
Achte mal auf seine Hand.
Although he's not nearly the outside shooter Durant is, but he does have an inside
game
on his years, where he uses a variety
so groß wie Eiffelturm. Ohne Spaß, Digga. 100%ig wird auch sein Spitzname irgendwas mit Eiffelturm sein, Digga. 100%ig.
Involving spin moves, pump fakes, and fadeaways, which keeps the defense in a constant state of gambling, like a perpetual game of choose your poison. Ultimately, at the moment, his strengths are in the open floor and on defense. With his speed, quick reaction, and size, Victor is virtually an automatic bucket in transition. He has the situational awareness and athleticism to create transition opportunities out of thin air. And on defense, he already possesses world-class timing, and his insane length allows him to seemingly be in 2 places on the court at once. However, Victor, just like every other prospect that came before him,
so huge.
Has weaknesses. But all of these weaknesses are things that, with the right development, can be solved. His slim frame, his shoddy decision-making at times, gambling on defense and relying on his length to make up for it, the usual weaknesses of most young mega-talents. But none of that matters.
Ist er in der G-League? Nee, der ist nächstes Jahr ist er im Draft.
Because Victor
ist so alles bestens, Manu, danke der Nachfrage, guten Hunger.
In the 2023 NBA Draft. He's the draft pick of the decade. According to SB Nation's Ricky O'Donnell, the last prospect this big, this fluid, and this comfortable with the ball in his hands might be a young Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. One anonymous NBA scout said,
ist einfach ein Big Dog, ich schwöre.
Porzingis offensively with Jokic-like passing skills. Another NBA scout said, when you see something you've never seen before, it can feel like your eyes are playing tricks on you. And many other scouts shared this same opinion, most of them struggling to even come up with an appropriate comp for Wembanyama. Since, quite frankly, there's never been a player like him in the history of the NBA.
Mit Fades.
Last summer, Victor faced off against Chet Holmgren during the U19 FIBA World Cup final. And despite Victor being a year younger than Chet, one NBA scout said, "Never have I seen Chet Holmgren overshadowed physically like he was last year whenever the two met."
Musst du dir mal vorstellen, du bist schon 7'1", Digga, bist einfach Slenderman schon auf dem Feld. Es kommt einfach noch ein größerer Slenderman, Bruder. Also wirklich, schade für Chet Holmgren, Bruder. Ich hoffe, dass er in den einen Jahr, was er Vorsprung hat vor den Franzosen, dass er da einiges vorlegen kann, Digga, aber Bruder. Also ohne Spaß, ich bin so gespannt auf die nächsten Jahre NBA, Digga. Da kann mir auch keiner was mit Fußball oder irgendwas sagen, Bruder. NBA on top, Digga. Was da in den letzten Jahren passiert, kann man wirklich nicht zusammenfassen, Bruder. Das ist einfach Fairy Tale. Einfach eine Geschichte, einfach ein Märchen, Digga.
Just off of sheer potential, Victor is one of the most sought-after prospects
Vernünftig, Manu, vernünftig. Wolltest du nicht eigentlich heute auch einen 12er machen?
we've ever seen. But there's just one small catch these scouts are missing. Actually, it's one massive 7'3" catch. Victor's too damn
Bruder,
tall.
ja.
As we previously touched on, the history of extremely tall and sustainably great
Ohne
big men
Spaß.
is very, very short. No matter how talented a freakishly tall player is, no matter how enticing their physical
Ob du heute nicht einen 12-Stunden-Stream machen wolltest.
tools are, at a certain point, all that height will eventually become a detriment to their game and their longevity. This trend of injury-prone ultra big men has become so prevalent that
Imagine, Digga. Imagine, Chet Holmgren und der Franzose, Digga, fangen an, sich auf den Board zu boxen, Digga. Da kannst du einfach nichts mehr machen, Bruder.
ultra big men has become so prevalent
Da müssen sie Steven Adams von OKC rüberholen, damit er die beiden auseinander nimmt, Digga.
that it isn't the exception, it's practically the rule. Believe it or not,
Vernünftig,
there are
Manu.
only 5 active NBA players who are taller than 7 feet. And of these 5 players, only 3 of them are taller than 7'2".
Bruder.
Kristaps Porzingis being easily the most talented of the 3.
Bruder, müssen die mal in Rack reingehen, Digga. Jeder zweite 7-3.
But outside of an injury-riddled Porzingis, who is the last player taller than 7'1" that made a real impact in the NBA? Stop, don't even bother trying to come up with an answer. It's Yao Ming, who had his last All-Star caliber season nearly 15 years ago.
Oh, no.
Which means that this century has featured two players, 7 feet 2 inches or taller, who played at an elite level. And both of them have had their careers derailed due to injuries.
Ja, stimmt.
It's virtually inevitable. Since the 2000 NBA draft, here are the percentages of games missed from lottery picks sorted by height. Throughout these 3 height ranges, there seems to be no correlating factor between height and injury. Generally speaking, players ranging from below 6 feet all the way up to 6'11" experience injuries at a very similar frequency. But lottery picks from 7 feet to 7'1" have missed 26.2% of all their potential NBA
Fast
games.
doppelt so viel.
This is a staggering amount. Now, I would add another height range of 7'2" and above, but there just hasn't been enough NBA prospects in that height range. The last
Kannst du auf meine Fortnite-Montage-Reaction? Oder schwierig. Schwierig, Digga.
time a player that tall was selected with the lottery pick in the NBA draft was Kristaps Porzingis in 2015. Before Kristaps, you have to go back to 2009 when the Memphis Grizzlies drafted 7'3" Hasheem Thabeet with the 2nd overall pick.
Bruder, der hat aber keinen
One
Impact gehabt
spot
in der
ahead
NBA.
of James Harden, 5 spots ahead of Stephen Curry, and 7 spots ahead of DeMar DeRozan.
Oh,
Hasheem stayed relatively healthy,
schade.
but spent 5 seasons bouncing around to numerous teams and finished his career with averages of just 2 points and 2 rebounds on 10 minutes per game.
Bruder.
But believe it or not, Hasheem Thabeet actually holds an NBA record for the tallest and highest drafted player to ever be sent down to the D-League. I swear I'm not making that up.
Das ist gottlos,
It's a real
Digga.
fact.
Ich schwöre, es wird heute wieder
Next
gottlos.
absurdly tall lottery pick, you have to go all the way back to the 2002 NBA draft, when the Houston Rockets drafted Yao Ming with the #1 overall pick, who, to my estimation, is the greatest player over 7 feet 2 inches in NBA history. To this day, Yao Ming is criminally underrated. The only thing bigger than he was were the standards put upon him coming into the NBA.
Ja, ohne
and he
Spaß.
lived up to that standard. But unfortunately, the height that made him an unstoppable force on the court was also the
Bruder.
cause of his retirement smack dab in the middle of his prime at the age of 30. Finding a young, talented player with this much size is a feat in its own right. Finding a young player with this much size with the
Bruder.
expectation that he has a long and healthy career would be nothing short of a miracle. To say the odds are stacked against this young man would be an understatement. We've just rarely seen any player pull it off. But that's the thing. Victor isn't like any other player. He can protect the paint like Gobert, create offense like Porzingis, run the floor like Giannis, and pass like Arvidas, all in one package. With a talent like this, teams will gladly take all the risk for a shot at the ultimate reward. If he can stay healthy, Wembanyama has the opportunity and the skills to be a player unlike anything the NBA has ever seen. So with that being said, let the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes begin.
Bruder, wieder ein sehr gutes Video von JxmyHighroller. Kann man wirklich nichts sagen, Digga. Er ist ohne Spaß, wenn ihr da noch kein Follow oder so da gelassen habt, Digga, geht auf jeden Fall mal vorbei, Bruder. 2 Millionen Abonnenten. Er macht die krassesten NBA-Videos, die man sich angucken kann. Auf Englisch, Digga, also ne, da müsst ihr schon Englisch für können, Digga, aber ich denke mal, das wird kein Problem sein, wenn ihr selber 2K spielt. Du musst einen Film Rice gesehen haben, geht um einen NBA-Spieler von Boston, Digga. Die Rice habe ich noch nicht gesehen, aber Hustle habe ich halt gesehen, Bruder, dann geht halt auch um einen NBA-Spieler, der zu dem Zeitpunkt bei Boston gespielt hat, Willie Hernan-Gomez, aber ja, Hustle war auch ein brutaler Film, Digga, aber Rice kenne ich nicht, Bruder, muss ich auch noch mal gucken.